Hey you guys, welcome back to RWP. I'm happy to say that I finally got the first video in the stable making series done. It's going to be the first video in a series of 3. The second one is going to be about realism and detailing, painting, all that good stuff. And of course, the third video is going to be about constructing the doors and attaching them, which turned out to be much more difficult than I expected. Anyways, with that said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm starting out with an 1/8 of an inch thick sheet of basswood. It's 8 inches by 12 inches and lays nice and flat. I also ordered these square wooden dowels. They are 12 inches long, 1/2 inch in diameter, and they came in a pack of 14. I ended up using 8 dowels for this project. All the links for these materials are in the description below. I'm using this CollectA model as a size reference. She is not quite finished being repainted, so just ignore that for now. I'm just setting up these dowels to get a rough idea of how I want my stable laid out. Here, I am lining out the perimeter of the stable. I used a straight edge measuring 1 inch into each of the 4 sides. The posts will sit within these perimeter lines. Instead of explaining tricky math in this video, here's a quick tip on cutting accurate angles, because they are very easy to mess up. Lay out your front and back posts, making sure that they are perfectly level and the same width apart from each other that you've measured your stable to be. Place another post across them representing your roof. This will be a side view of your stable. Now choose the pitch that you want at the height that you want your roof, and then mark it out on your posts with a pencil. You would then cut these posts, and they would serve as a pattern for your remaining 6 posts. The angle on your short posts will be different than the angle on your tall posts, so be sure to keep them separate. I glued my corner posts first so I could use them as a guideline. I chose wood glue because it's practically invincible and makes a nice flush joint. As I lined out my posts, I constantly checked that the angle cuts were all facing in the same direction. If you make your cuts right, then the roof should rest flush with the tops of your posts. As I was lining out my shorter back posts, I made sure they were the same distance apart as the adjacent taller front posts. Once I got them exactly where I wanted them, I used a pencil to mark their position. The downside of using wood glue is that the dry time is between 40 to 60 minutes, but it's worth it to have a nice strong bond. Next, I'm making measurements for the walls. I am just going to use the same basswood sheets for this, but if you're low on supplies, I think a nice strong cardboard would work just as well, if you're planning on painting your stable. As you can see, my curious third arm sometimes appears in my projects. Actually, that's just my son Jacob, helping with the video. Here is how I marked the top cuts for my side walls. I placed a sheet against the side of the stable, then laid a temporary roof on top. I then used a pencil to draw a line across my sidewall to mark the correct angle. Fit is perfect. We'll be needing 2 of these sidewalls, so you can use this one as a pattern for the second one. I ended up making 4 of these sidewalls because I wanted this to be a stone stable with thick walls. I'll be showing you how I did that in the next video. I then cut more smaller pieces for the face of the stable. Next is my favorite part, gluing it all together. Once again, I recommend using wood glue and small clamps for the entire construction aspect of this project. I don't suggest using a hot glue gun because the glue doesn't press smooth upon contact and will leave you with slender gaps. But I was short on time and wanted to get this put together quickly for you guys. Next comes attaching the roof. I drew it out in the same way I did the base sheet, 1 inch in from all sides, because I want the 2 sheets to match up perfectly when I glue it down. At this point, the initial structure is done. I was mostly happy with the way it came together. There were a few small issues that I didn't like, such as those slender gaps, but I'll show you guys how to fix those later on in the video. Next, we'll be adding the pretty little details that I love so much using craft sticks. I always start by cutting the round end off with wire cutters. You can use strong scissors for a finer cut, but I find that they often split the wood, which I don't care for. When cutting these smaller pieces, it's wise to cut them a little too big, then sand them down to a perfectly snug fit with sandpaper. Now I'm making the cross detail. Once you've figured out the angle you want for your cross detail, then you can use a square corner to mark your first cut. Place the stick over the face then use another square corner to mark your second cut. I think it fits pretty nicely, but a good sanding will make it look nice and clean. Adding the headers to the door, window, and tack area will really bring the look all together. I really enjoy adding all the details like this and making perfect cuts. I can't wait to get to the painting portion of this project. When lining out the header for the tack area, I am using the same method for marking angles as before, penciling cut lines using existing posts. Don't forget to label your pieces so you can get the right cuts and the right openings. The heading for the tack area came out a little short. I think my penciling was slightly off, but it's a pretty easy fix. Cutting a craft stick to size, I used it to fill the gap. Once the stable is completely finished, you won't notice the difference. I cut some pieces of basswood to size for the door opening, my plan to install a Dutch door. I won't be attaching it in this video, however, because it would interfere with the next step in the process. Deciding that the roof wasn't thick enough, I added another layer of basswood to the first, then used chip clips as clamps to keep it in place while the wood glue dried. Here's the part where I fix all the little gaps and cracks that are making me crazy. The sustainable wood filler. If you've seen my tree making video, then you know I have a slight obsession with wood filler. I think it's a magical resource in crafting. So what I'm doing here is just rubbing the wood filler into all the gaps. It's going to get everywhere, the mess is unavoidable, but I'm not really worried about it because it's super easy to sand down. It will stain your wood a yellow color though, so if you're leaving your stable unfinished, then I suggest skipping this step. And I also recommend not writing on your craft wood. Now that it's all sanded down, you can see how much neater it looks, minus the yellow stains, of course. After inspecting it for a time, I decided to add some more detailing on the side of the tack area. And here it is, pretty much ready for paint and realism. As you can see, I did add some more wood filler, sort of blending the craft sticks into the walls just a little bit. Once I get the details fully sanded, it's really going to make a nice seamless feature. You can see also that I need to add a second round of wood filler to catch those areas that I missed the first time around. And I also added those third and fourth sidewalls on the interior of the stall, as well as additional sheeting on the interior back wall. I'll show you why in my next video. In part 2 of this tutorial, I will be showing you how I turned it into a rustic stone stable. And of course, I will also be installing the doors. So that's it for now. If you guys make your own stables using this tutorial, I would love to hear about it. More upcoming projects include building wooden fences, gates, and round corrals. If you guys are interested in seeing those videos, then don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. See you next time!